don't know. So, right, and start. Hey, welcome to 42. Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as humans, based on the 21 grams experiments by Dr. Duncan MacDougall, who concluded that the soul weighed 21 grams. On this video cast, we will explore that no matter what we look like on paper, our souls are similar. Oh my God, in this episode, we are speaking with the face, the brows, the fashionista, the extraordinary, the only brow guru of the world. Wait, actually, let's do this again, because I feel like that's who you are on Instagram, but for me, we're speaking to the kind, the creative, the ever-evolving, the focused, the honest, the vulnerable, the fashion foodie, Maddox Lu. How's it going?
Good, thank you. Now I feel like I have to live up to that for the next 42 minutes.
Oh, honey, you live up to that all the time.
I mean, I showed up in tofu. I should have actually done better.
I mean, I think we should let the audience know that Maddox is going to be my last two interviews of 2020, and we're just going to go back to back and do one and then do a fashion change and come back. So I have a feeling the next outfit change is going to be less tofu-ish.
We'll see. We'll see. Under promise, over deliver.
Which is not your motto ever.
It's 2020. It's my new motto.
No, I 100% don't believe that. I feel like I've known you well enough to know that you're saying that out loud, but inside you've got like, you built an empire of what's going to happen next.
Yeah, there's a whole wardrobe team right now running around with racks. It's full Devil Wears Prada. People are panicking now.
So you mean just Aaron?
You're making me cry.
we can't ruin
Oh,
the
God.
All right. So I just had to go back into our lives. So we've known each other since 2001 or 2003. I can't figure out exactly where, but like...
I can't do math. I'm Asian.
Yeah. That's true. Well, do you... So I have a very vivid memory of where I feel like I first remember seeing you. Do you have an idea, or do you remember?
I remember my first impression of you, and it wasn't... I hadn't even met you yet.
Oh.
I had heard about you. That was my first impression of you.
From our friend Leanne?
Yes!
Speaking of Asian persuasions, like, yeah. Oh, so my very first memory of you is like at Sheridan on the ground floor, in which I think it was like I feel like it was a meeting room in there. And all I remember is this like gothic Asian femme man coming down, and I feel like you had wearing a fringe jacket or you had cut up clothes that were black, brilliant makeup, and a Louis Vuitton handbag. And I does that sound like you?
Isn't that everyone? Isn't that everyone in college in the early 2000s?
No, honey. You're the, like... First of all, I think being people of color at Sheridan at that time, the time of our lives, it wasn't like... There weren't that many Asian people there. So there's a lot of white boys everywhere.
I mean, they were there. They were just all in animation. That's all.
That's true.
Yeah.
And you were... but they weren't as fabulous as you were. Like, I feel like... They were these nerdy, geeky boys.
I have a very different memory of Sheridan and just college years in general. Yes, to, the designer bags, that was my obsession. It still is. I have a sick obsession with beautiful collector's items like that. But for me, college in the early 2000s was the early 2000s. If you can imagine, it was Jessica Simpson and her multicolored Louis Vuitton bag. It was, Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie. It was low-rise, hip-hugging Guess jeans with like the belt loops cut off, and it was your G-string showing. It was Christina Aguilera dirty, so like under-dyed, multi-tonal hair braided with chains. Like, that was the early 2000s for me. It was America's Next Top Model. It was fashion. It was style. It was what was happening with celebrity, and it was huge. People were, this person was all up in it, and my immediate circle and my surroundings, or I chose to surround myself with a lot of people that were completely, you know, like into it, all of it.
Right. Well, I remember you nailing it, and for me, it was just like, oh my God, here's another Asian person who's doing all the things that I think in my head. Because I had just come out in 2000 or 1999. Like I just come out a couple years before you. So the perception of you, like the perception of what gay was going to look like, was so different from me. And then to see, I was like, oh my God, that's the gay I want to be like.
Oh.
And it was so nice to finally be like, oh my God, and then to meet you and be like, oh my God, he's not.
And then you met me. If you knew then what you know now.
But I feel like at that point I fell in love with you, and you're still the same person. Like nothing fundamentally has changed about you for all these years. Which is,
I mean, I think some things have changed. I won't let my G-string show anymore. I mean, I put the multicolor Speedy to sleep in my closet.
But you still have it in your closet, so it's got to be like a
yes.
thing. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does somebody go from, I feel like you graduated from illustration at Sheridan. That was your major. So how does somebody go from illustration? First of all, how does an Asian guy get into arts without his parents being like, you need to be a doctor?
They don't.
Right.
Oh, it happened.
Right. Right. So you did that.
Yep.
And then how do you go from...
I mean, yeah, it definitely happened. Like, I have a very traditional upbringing in the sense that, as progressive as my parents are in so many ways, because once they migrated here, they really adopted a lot of the mentality and the perspectives, but they still withheld a lot of like the traditions. Like, you know, we say please and thank you, we say good morning, we address our parents as mom and dad. I know some families where you can address your parents by their first name. That would never fly in this household. But yeah, we still have some traditions, you know, that I still follow to this day, that I expect of my brother and I, like between our dynamic, and like me and my parents, even though I am 38. You know, I still say good morning and good night and thank you. And I like, when we have family style dinners, I still give them the first grabs kind of thing. Like there's just all these different traditions within the Asian culture that I don't want to break, that I still respect. But I did get the full, you know, like, you sure you don't want to be a doctor? Are you sure you want to, you know, gamble with your career and pursue the arts? You know, there's academics, aren't they shiny and beautiful? And I'm just like, I want a degree in drawing. So I had my fair share of like, are you sure? Are you sure? But there's no guarantee. Like, what if? And I was like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. That's always definitely been my personality, and it still is. It's very like, the more people are fearful of something or nervous or apprehensive of something, the more I want to actually try to conquer it. It's not about proving them wrong. It's never about that. It's about, well, what they fear, I'm going to see if I can overcome.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I feel like you have it. Like, you've gone from the kid who did illustration to MAC Cosmetics to now working at Benefits. Like, how does one get from there to here? Tell us a little bit more about how you got where you are.
How I started at MAC, really, it kind of came about when my parents were like, listen, you're not like the other white kids. We're not giving you an allowance. If you want money, you're getting a job. So that's how that happened. I mean, I walked around the mall back in the day. For all of you watching who are maybe too young to know, you actually handed out paper resumes. You didn't apply online because there was no such thing, unless it was Craigslist. And even then, it wasn't legit. So I had to walk around the mall, Scarborough Town Center, and I had to hand out paper resumes, like just bare a brave face and go, hi, I'm looking for a job. And I did several group interviews. I did some for Club Monaco. I did some for a few other stores I can't even remember, but the Club Monaco one really stuck out because that was where I really kind of absorbed most of what I felt like I applied to my MAC interview. Everyone was doing group interviews, and but like, believe it or not, I'm actually not extroverted. I am not the like, haha, I'm here. This is what I've got to say. Like, it's really not my vibe to begin with, but I can build myself to that once I get comfortable with an atmosphere or an audience or whatever. And I just sank in the back, and obviously I disappeared in the crowd. But I listened. My objective for myself was to listen to what people were saying, how they bounced back from questions. And I knew that that wasn't the right place for me or the right moment for me. But when I would come across that right interview, I would apply everything I just learned. And my last interview was actually with Mac, and that's where I dropped all my cards and boom, it happened. So I landed Mac in a very kind of strange way, and it's like one of my favorite stories to tell, not because I'm the star of the story, but because it honestly is like did that really just happen moment. I handed in my resume. By the way, my resume had my birthday on it. If that doesn't tell you how inexperienced and junior I am to even get a job at McDonald's, who puts their birthday on a resume? I didn't know what went on a resume.
Is that what we had to do back in the day, though? I'm trying to think about, like, no, I think birthdays were never, no. Oh.
No, nobody needed to know your birthday. She was ready. She felt good. But yeah, I handed it in my resume, and they reached out, and they were like, yeah, we'd love to meet you. So I went in there, I dressed in all black. My dad actually drove me to the interview and stood in front of the Mac counter and waited for me. Little did he know the interview would last 3 hours. Not because that's how long the process took, but that's how well I got along with the manager over the interview. I felt like I took it and I owned it. And the tables turned, and I owned the interview. Ooh. And I made it about me. I led it. I drove the conversation. And it became so great that the original position they were hiring for, which I had no idea was for just a seasonal cashier for holiday, they ended up forgoing that and going, you know what, we actually have an artist position we'd love to offer you. Would you go like that instead? And that's how I actually started. A kid who wanted an allowance, who would not get it, just applied for a job in a mall like any kid probably would have back then. 1997, landed my first ever job, and it was at Mac Cosmetics, Scarborough Town Center. And fast forward, here we are.
I mean, all the kids who are in Scarborough Town Center who are looking to like just apply, like you put yourself out there. I think the brave thing was that you wanted something, you put yourself out there, and there was a determination behind it, which is so great. And then when you found your niche, boom, like you nailed it. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked like tones, we talked service, we talked, anything and everything. We talked about everything, even just non-beauty things. We just got along so well. She was like, I have to have you. I have to hire you. So,
one of the things that like my professor at Sheridan had told me, Jillian, was like, I only hire people I want to work with every day. I don't care how qualified you. Like the qualifications are important, but one of the biggest things they do is like, oh, I think about if I can work with you every day. And I remember thinking like, that sticks with me all the time. Like even when I interview people, when I'm interviewing somebody else, when I'm interviewing for a position, I'm like, oh, can I see your face every day? Can I be your friend every day?
Is that Jill?
Jill, yeah.
Jill Dallas.
No, Jillian from the postgraduate new media program. Jillian something. Okay. Right. But that's what she said. I always remember that when I'm hiring people, I'm like, oh, like, can I work with you every day? And it's such an important, like, whatever your resume says, it says, but like, that is such a big thing. Yeah. Are you still friends with do you still talk to the manager? Like you were such a relationship person.
I do not. I do keep in touch with one, please hold. I keep in touch with about like 5 or so people from that world still, because they're just really genuine, down to the core, real people that you meet usually a handful of those in a workspace that you can connect with in a bigger way.
I think one of the people I always think about that are Mac that remind me of you is Lucky.
Yeah, right? Totally. Lucky. Oh my gosh.
Like what she's a beautiful human.
Makeup game. She's Like, I mean, I can't imagine any moment when she wasn't.
Yeah.
She's so creative, so talented, her execution of everything, you know, her wit, her humor, her education, her knowledge, her skill, everything, always right on time, perfect delivery.
Yeah.
She's a blade. She's a real blade.
But I think you, like, that's the thing. Like, when I think of makeup artists at that level, I think of you and her are like very similar as how you are
Thank
as
you.
people.
Holy
Yeah.
crap.
Yeah.
I don't put myself at her level because, like, as someone who's looked up to her forever, she was always a senior artist and a trainer when I joined MAC. So she's like, I put her up here. It's one of those like, you know, yeah, Madonna, Gaga, like, she's up there. She's not down here with, you know, normal folk.
Well, you're the same human in my eyes. Maybe different as makeup skills, right? Okay, so somebody who you love food. I know, like, you're such a foodie. Like, going to eat out going for dinners with you are experiences, because you always will go to a new fun place or that I've never been to, and you always love to take chances. Like, the one thing I appreciate so much about you and our friendship is that you change and evolve all the time. And it's something, and you want the same people in your life, but it's almost like you actually demand it for people in your life. How did you get there? Like, what drives you to be that person?
To be the ever-evolving person?
Yeah, it's on top of, like, food, fashion, yes, but that's on top of your list is like change, evolve, grow.
I think it comes from, I mean, how long is this episode? We can really go into a therapeutic moment here.
Let's do it.
I think it really comes from a place of knowing what is the root of my emotion and processing that and going somewhere, anywhere with it. I think whether I'm feeling frustrated, down, depressed, stressed, anxiety, joyful, grateful, whatever emotion I'm feeling at any given time of day, let alone week, month, season, year, decade, whatever, I try to always boil it down in my mind. I'm like, okay, get to the root of it. What is triggering this feeling? So you can appreciate it more, process it better, and build upon it. You know, if I'm down, I want to get to the reason why I'm down and not just simply lash out.
Right.
I want to get to the root of why, squash that so I can move the hell on. You know, but if I'm happy about something and if I'm excited or nervous about an opportunity or whatever, I also want to know why so that I can prepare for it, embrace it, grow from it, build from it, and gain as much as I can from that, you know? So I feel like whatever comes my way, I embrace with open arms because I know that it's just a moment and it will pass. And I can either let it pass with no fruits, or I can take it and let it bloom into something radical.
So I feel like there's got to be a moment in your life where that did work for you, and that was a spark that you're never going to do it again. Do you remember that moment?
Tons. Oh my gosh, like mushroom bowl cut, that'll never happen again.
Wait,
letting my parents dress me, that also will never happen again. But I've definitely made bad choices. I've acted prematurely or reacted prematurely. I still have moments like that. But I think it's those moments that constantly remind me to take a deep breath, you know, use that breath work that you've been learning and process before you respond. You know, process before you respond to an email, process before you respond to a text, process before you respond emotionally. Just process. Give yourself the time.
Actually, no, I've seen that in action. I feel like in our conversation, we've had something happen and we've had lunch and you'd be like, you just sit in this and you work through it. It's such a, like, for those of people who ever get a chance to have lunch with Maddox, it's such a great process because you get to see it happen. And it's such a, like, you are so
now people are picturing me eating lunch.
That's not how she eats lunch, let me tell you.
Oh, he's processing. You see it turning?
Your process is, like, you are so, and I don't know if you're great to just share with me, right? Like, you sit there and you'll be like, not just me, actually, I've seen you do it with everybody you come in contact with. You're like, here's a moment I'm having. You're happy to share whatever is happening because for me, it almost feels like you're like, great, I'm like, we're doing it like there's a, not as a narcissistic way, but it's like a collective way. Like when you share, it's like, oh, it's a collective knowledge of sharing that happens. Um, am I,
Yeah, I
okay.
mean, my Instagram is like my platform for that. I definitely am very candid on it. I could be more, but I think I want to ease people into that. I do share for selfish reasons because it's a form of therapy for me. When I put something into writing and I put it into the universe in an open space for anyone to see and to take, I feel like I make it real. And when I make it real like that, I feel like I've given it a form of acceptance. So like again, if it's my depression, if it's my anxiety, if it's my joy, if it's my whatever gratitude. Um, so I believe in sharing for me first and foremost. It's for my good. But yeah, I also love, reading on people's journeys, hearing about people's journeys. So I imagine if I can enjoy that, if I can benefit from it, I'm sure there's other people out there like that too. So if anybody cares or has the time to listen to what I've got to say, here it is.
So I feel like there's some people who, like when you put stuff out there, not that I'm stalking your Instagram, but I'm stalking your Instagram. Like people react, like you're great at communicating back with people. Like some people say something, you're on top of it. Like you're for someone who's as busy as you are, and I've seen you at the
Okay,
busiest.
you're outing me right now because that just says I should be focusing on my job instead of answering every notification on my phone.
I've seen you do both. That's the thing, though. Like I've seen you talk about like traveling across Canada, have a zillion things to do, but and yet engaging with like your people on Instagram. Like how? Like, do you sleep?
I mean, I think it has a lot to do with priorities. Just like anything
Hmm.
else, like some people will always find the time to meditate. Some people will always find the time to read a book or, go for a walk or um, whatever it is. Like for me, because this is such a priority for me to share, and I feel fulfilled, and validated. Of course, I'd be lying if I didn't say that. I feel validated when someone responds to a post of mine and actually makes a comment. Like that's, having your post being seen is one thing. Liked and seen is a whole other thing. But a comment and a like and seen, it's like you're engaging with my thought. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I want to show my appreciation and engage back.
It's so funny for me because I feel like I've been in a space with you where I've seen somebody be like, "Oh my God, you're Maddox Lu from the Instagram," and they have such a perception of who you are, and then they meet you, they're like, "Wait, like it's such a like you have two great like
They're
it's
like,
such a
oh, this
yeah,
is what.
no." I feel like
Oh.
it comes from the like Maddox, and then they're like, you're so good at
Expectation, reality.
you're so good at humanizing things, right? Like you're like I've seen it be like someone be like, "Oh my God, untouchable," and then you're like, "By the way, let's sit down and have a coffee and kiki." Like you're so good at being able to do that with people. So for me, it sounds like connecting with people is such a priority for you in life, no matter who you are, where you are. Like it could be Naomi Campbell or it could be some kid down the street.
Yeah, because I am fascinated to know more about people. I want to learn about their journeys because, to your point, even the whole premise of this podcast, everyone's journey is a little different, and I want to know all those intricacies. Even though we're the same, we've taken different paths, we've got different experiences, we've all of that, and I want to hear about it. I love listening to stories, I love asking questions, and I've always been curious.
And you're very good at those. I feel like when you're present, you are present. And you've also been present across the board. Like I think if anybody comes into your space, you give them 100% present. Like you're ready to be
Well,
present
I want
100%.
to. If I want to.
Yeah, I guess I've never seen you not want to. So hmm, invite me to
When
that
do I
moment.
not want to?
Yeah,
I don't, you know what, to your point, I don't know when I don't give my 100% because I also believe in surrounding yourself with things that lift you, that brings you joy, brings you passion, that helps you grow, blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't even really, I don't know, those other things kind of get filtered out anyway. So
right.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen it. Like, to be honest with you, we've been at spaces where been like, oh, I would never talk to that person. You happily made time for them. Like, which just makes me feel cuntier, but
no, but that I love that mechanism that you've got. Everyone should exercise that. If you're not into it, don't humor it. Like,
yeah.
life is too short, you know.
Okay, so I want to talk about your birthdays. So Maddox's
Oh
birthdays
boy.
are epic, people. They are a great combination of like, there's a
Used to
theme.
be.
Well, I mean, this is a pandemic state, but like, I feel like I remember your birthdays from 10 years ago. Like, I never attended them, but I was invited, so thank you. Because our friendship, we just weren't in the same space. But Maddox's birthdays are themed but chill, fancy but simple. And the best thing is like what you love. Like, it's this big production, but what you just love is that your friends show up and you divvy up into three parts. Like, it's a full day production, but there's like a cheap option, expensive, and people get to pick and choose where they get to come to, right? How did you?
You've kind of seen the most recent incarnation of what it's become. So
That's the question. How did we get here? Like, so the question is like, what?
well, it actually started quite a few years back. If I'm not mistaken, it was 2011 was the first time I threw a big shindig for my birthday, because in the past it would just be a birthday with my family and maybe one or two friends. We'd go out, we'd have a dinner, that's it. In 2011, I intentionally wanted to host a proper celebration, because that was the year I had my first health scare. So in 2011, I was in a situation where I thought I had contracted HIV. And at that point in my life, which was like 9 years ago, like almost a decade ago, I was a spring chicken. But no, I was very scared, and I had never been given news like that, or been in a situation where I'd have to wait for an answer or a test result or anything like that. So it had shaken me up. And back then HIV wasn't what it is now also, and education wasn't what it is now. And it was a different time altogether. And when I did get the results and I found that I didn't have it, that I wanted to take a moment to just celebrate everything that had gone through my mind in those 2 weeks that I was waiting, as I was waiting to find out how my life looks going forward. So I felt like birthdays, they are a celebration of life. It's the celebration of the day that you've been brought to this earth, but I wanted to turn mine into a celebration of life, period. So what are you happy for, and what are you celebrating for this past year behind you? What kind of growth has happened for you? What kind of realizations? What kind of anything, and I wanted to make my birthday about that. And that year it was about just appreciating health, appreciating, the ability to choose, like choice, the power that we have, the freedom that we have here as queer people in Canada, Asian minority, gay, another minority, but I have the choice. I can choose to love, and how publicly I want to love, and all of this stuff. It was a lot. So I was just like, I need to bundle that all up in a perfect little bow and celebrate that message as a marker for myself. And I invited a bunch of friends, and the theme was basics, because it brought me back down to basics, just to appreciate life and choice and power and freedom. So I had everybody show up in white tank tops and blue jeans, model basics. It's basics, but make it fashion.
Right, of course.
Make it fashion. So that kind of spawned the birthday celebrations, and each year it's been a different theme visually, but it also corresponded with the message. Like, what were we celebrating this year? Was it career growth? Was it family growth? Was it personal growth? Was it, or whatever?
And I think that, like, first of all, thank you for sharing that story. I think as queer men, like, the scare of HIV is such a it's part of our lives. It's things that like I think now the new generation, like with prep and that kind of stuff, you don't even think about it. It's not a dead sentence anymore.
It's a different thing. Yeah.
It's a completely different thing, right? And you know, when I talk to my older gay friends, they remember the 80s and the 90s when it was a death sentence, and
because it was back
it
then.
was, yeah. But there's still a stigma around it, though, right? We like if I talk to a straight friend, if I talk to any of my straight friends about it, they're like, "Oh my god!" And then you're like, "Listen, this is what it used to look like. Here's where we are now," and the education component is so important, right? So it's but like I think the education component is important, but also the fact that like we personally have to be like, "Oh my god!" Like life is not guaranteed for us no matter who you are, to be honest with you. And I think this pandemic is going to definitely put that through. But at 9 years ago, it's at the age of 20, like in your 20s when you hear that, like you think you're invincible. You're not, you know, we don't think that you're going to die. So to get that message.
It's a different wiring when you're that young.
Yeah. But I love how you took that scary moment. Like the thing that you took the lemons that day and made lemonade out of it and continue every year to do it. So, I mean, thank you for sharing that.
That's me taking something, processing, and building on it, and not letting it happen, you know, like without a cause.
Yeah, no, and you did brilliantly. And speaking about lemons, yellow is one of your favorite colors in the world.
Yes.
Why? And like when you told me, like, tell us why.
So yellow, I wouldn't say it's my favorite color, believe it or not, but it is something to me that is fascinating enough that I positioned and designed my entire Instagram around it for a good block of time. But it's because yellow is a very rare color. True chrome yellow, like primary yellow, canary yellow, you know, it's very rare because if you look around you, like even fire hydrants aren't that bright, brilliant yellow, you know? So where do you find it? Dandelions when they're fresh bloom, healthy, spring, whatever. But like other than that, or caution tape, it's such a striking color. When you do see it, you can't unsee it. It sticks out amongst everything else, right? But you don't see it often. It's so rare. So I found it very intriguing for me in a weird conceptual, like artiste kind of way. And I made it a mission to try to capture as many yellow moments as I could to film my Instagram, because I just thought it's rare, it's unique, it's beautiful, it stands out. I want to see how many times I can harvest it and post it.
Well, for those people who are going to follow the Instagram page, he's done a really great job with it. I feel like as a designer, you always think like yellow is the color you don't use because you can't read anything around it. It's a color of pee. Like there's something negative connotations to it, but you found a way to make it like it's special.
Thank you. I don't know if I have, but I definitely heard of everyone's thoughts on the color. So,
right. Well, people listening, here's a new thought on the color. Change your mind. We're going to 2021.
Then we're going to change your mind about pineapple on pizza.
Right, yeah. Oh my God, pineapple on pizza. All right, so let's talk. What's one of the funniest things you've done today?
Today, the funniest things I've done? Oh my God. I mean, I probably panicked, came home, showered in a frenzy because I thought that I'd like to be early, ready for our taping of this podcast. So I rushed home, I showered, I'm like huffing and puffing. I'm like, I think I need to relax from my shower. If that isn't a brilliant, you know, display of how lame a life I lead. That's the most hilarious thing that's happened to me today. I just found myself coming out of the shower huffing and puffing, and I'm like, wait, chill out. That should have been relaxing for you. So,
and we're still an hour earlier than we planned.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you see, I like to be early.
Right. What's the meanest thing you've ever done?
Oh, the meanest thing I've ever done. I think mean can be so many different things, just like a lie can be so many different things. A lie can be negative, or a lie could be something that spares someone heartbreak or hurt or embarrassment. You know what I mean? So if we're going to talk about mean in a vindictive, malicious way, the most mean thing I've ever done was probably all the way back in grade 4. Like that was the most malicious, vindictive, horrible thing to do. And even then I was a kid, for God's sake, stop throwing me a bone.
Are you going to tell us what that mean thing was?
No.
Okay.
I mean, I was a kid. I was just doing something stupid to a classmate who was bugging the crap out of me, you know. But yeah, just stupid childish behavior, whatever.
And I think that, like, we've all had those moments. Everyone's a human.
Yeah.
Funny thing, when I ask this question, for me, all my mean things relate to my youngest sibling. And I think I've done the meanest things to her because we have. And back then, as a kid, we were like, that's going to teach you how to be stronger. But now we look back and we're like, oh, such horrible siblings.
I mean, and I
one of my best
watched your
friends.
episode with Farah, and I know you guys talked about that. And I'm like, wow, but I love how okay with it that you guys are to talk about it. I mean, if you had asked me when was the last time I hurt someone's feelings, that's a whole different thing. I mean, I probably hurt someone's feelings every once a day, every day. Like, because I do feel like there's something to be said about perception. Perception is reality. So if I've hurt your feelings, it's not my intent. Sometimes it is, but it's not my intent, you know. But if your feelings were hurt, that's valid, and it's a reality, and I have to apologize for it. But I can't control how you receive things. So if you're going to be hurt by my comment or my direction or my whatever, then yes, I acknowledge that, and I'm sorry. But yeah, I that would be a whole different story. That happens, I think, on the daily.
No, and I've, like, you've talked about that, and also I know when you talk, like, even when you have done not intentionally, you stew on how to make it better. Like, not stew the word, but like you're so, like, that's never your goal. So to anybody out there that Maddox has made feel bad, like, it's not your goal.
Sometimes it's not the intention, but sometimes I feel like some people made it for a little push.
But even then, I feel like it's because you're like, I'll do this because they're gonna get better. Like, I've never even when you think it's malicious, it's not. Like, you're saying malicious, but I've never, like, you're calculated about it because it's an experience you've had that you think is gonna help the other person. It's like when you go to dance school, the dance teacher's like they know better, so they teach you.
It's not even that. Truly, I promise, it's not even that. It's more of like you've left me no choice but to be blunt, to say, you know, literally communicate the words that are in my head. Right. I can no longer beat around the bush or sandwich it or hold your hand. So I'm going to say it to you the most clear, coherent way I know how, and it's blunt. Here it is. You know, and some people need it that way, and you know how they take it and how they simmer on it and what it becomes later that's their journey. But if you're not hearing it any other way I've tried, then you're getting it raw.
There. Yeah. Okay. What's your biggest regret?
My biggest regret, oh my god. Do I have regrets?
Ooh, yeah.
Do I even have regrets? I mean, sometimes I wish I ordered something else for dinner. Like, that's about as deep as it gets, because for the most part, if I'm considering it, I will dive in. Right. If I want it, I'll go after it. If I need it, I'll take it. You know, like I'm very decisive with myself, and I don't regret any choice I've ever made, any path I've ever taken. So no, there are none.
How do you, so one of my favorite questions is, how do you choose love?
Choose love? In what sense?
So, you know, I feel like for me, we always have a choice. When you're faced with something, you can either be like, I can choose this direction, or one or the other. And I think we get a choice between not good or bad, but it's love or hate. Not even hate, but it's like or dislike. And love, I think, like, so much happening in the world where it's easy to sort of go into a negative space easily. We can go into a negative space, we can pick hate so easily because it reflects something. Like, everybody can hate Donald Trump, like, or you can hate anything because there's so much of it in the world that gets compounded to us by news and all this kind of stuff. And I think we purposely, as humans, have to make a choice to be like, I'm choosing love and not this.
Right. I definitely don't always choose love. Let's start there. When I choose love, it's because I think there's more to learn. So I choose love when I think there's more to the story. And maybe that if we boil that down, because I'm all about boiling it down, I think that there's more for me to boil down to get to the root of what I'm about to judge or make judgment on. So if I feel like I don't have enough, well-rounded, broad knowledge to form an opinion, and it's worth investigating a bit more, then I will choose love, because I don't believe anybody is born a villain. I don't think any situation is handed to anyone as a catastrophe. I don't think anything is bleak. I think things get that way, or people become that, or whatever. So where there's a way into a problem, there's a way out of it. And it just takes investigating and more education.
I love what you said. I think people aren't born that way. No one's born with hate, right? It's something like something's happening
taught,
in your
it's
life.
Learned.
Yeah. But I think as much as it's learned, but also choosing love is learned. I strongly believe that, because if you easily just sit in this unloving space, and that's timer. But
sit in this loving space. Stop.
But making that choice is, I think, it's like a left, like it's a reminder that we have to, it's a choice you get to make every day. You can either be this or that, and it's tougher sometimes to choose love.
Oh yes,
I think you do it very beautifully.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Thank you. See that to all the wear and tear.
Yeah. All right. So to wrap up this round, we're going to go rapid fire round. I'm going to throw one word at you, throw one word back at me. Ready?
Okay.
All right. Love.
Purple.
Light.
Sun.
Louis Vuitton.
Waste of money.
Dior.
On point right now.
Makeup.
My career.
Soul.
Still learning it.
Nice. Well, we're going to take this time to thank everybody for joining us to take time out of their busy day to tune in with Maddox's Eyes and be kiki with each other. We'll get more of Maddox in episode 10. So, bye.
Bye.